Hello and welcome, beautiful soul. I want to be sharing with you today about dealing with the bad vibes. What do we do about them when we experience them? Because let's be honest, they come up for everybody and it's part of the human experience on planet Earth. So how do we navigate this? And this was inspired today by someone in my Agents of Awesome community who said, you know, how do I overcome lower vibrational challenges acquired in decades of having lived on the material? You know, so someone who has lived a very rich, full life, is spiritually awake and attuned, and still is struggling on how to deal with the bad vibes. So let's talk about them. There's no shortage today in the world of the negative vibes. I think of them like frequencies, right? I think of vibrations like a radio station. Like we are a radio and there are frequencies that we can tune into, yes? And they're always present. They're always there. It is us as the mechanism in our own, wherever we're at in our own journey and the ways that we want to attune to things and the abilities that we work on within ourselves. Those enable us to tune in and tap into different frequencies. So these are all experiences that can happen. And so, you know, when I'm talking about bad and good, these are really experiences. They are states. And you know, good and bad is language that we put on top of things to give a quality, right? A descriptive quality of how we experience these things. But nonetheless, you know, so I just want to, you know, put that note there about the bad when I'm talking about bad vibes. But it's really things that, you know, bad vibes that take us off our path, off our center, that make us feel down and heavy and awful and horrid and, you know, just yuck, right? Just yuck, the bad vibes. We know them when we feel them, right? You walk into a room and you know when you just want to turn around and walk out the other way because it's not a good feeling. You know when there's a conversation going on and you just get a bad feeling about where it's going and how it is, or the quality of that conversation just doesn't feel good to be in, right? So this is what we're talking about here. How do we not get weighed down by these bad vibes? So the first point I want to address is it's actually really, really easy. It's so easy to get sucked into these negative spirals. Why is that? And why is it that over time they can actually increase in strength? If you're someone who is conscious and you've been walking a conscious path, in a way, it doesn't make sense, right? But I've done my self-work, I've been doing my shadow work, I've been addressing this, I've been addressing that. Why is it, you know, and I've been focusing on all of the positive aspects of things. Why am I getting sucked into these negative spirals, these negative vibe spirals that happen? Well, there's a few reasons for that. So we're human, right? And we come with patterns. We come with innate patterns that are built in us. We also develop patterns through our childhood, our upbringing, our social cultural conditioning, our ancestral DNA, right? There are patterns that we uniquely have. And so those patterns are incredibly strong. They give us a foundation on which we operate in the world, because if we didn't have some mode of operating, then, you know, we just couldn't function, right? We couldn't have conversations, we couldn't do anything in the world. So there are basic templates that we are given in how we are constructed and how we operate that run on autopilot, the same way that your heart beats, the same way that your lungs, you know, fill with air and your breathing happens and you don't even question it. There are these templates that are in place that we can operate from, right, that are innate and that can shift and evolve over time. Of course, we have the nature-nurture conversation going on there. So of course we are changeable and mutable over time. But if we're not aware of these patterns, we carry them on and we continue them and we repeat them and we grow comfortable in them. And perhaps there's been a time when we're especially younger where we've just learned that that is a way of doing life that works for us, even if it's, it might not be ideal, but it's a way of doing things that is at least functional. And maybe it does even work for us. Maybe even we get a level of enjoyment or pleasure or success or reward out of doing it that way. And so these patterns over time, the more they are repeated, the more they, carry on, they get strengthened. They become super highways in our neuro pathways. They become super pathways in how we operate, in our energy. And so naturally they get strengthened. In the same way, family dynamics, right? I think it was Ram Dass who said, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a weekend with your parents. In the same way, if you are all love, light, and bliss, over on the yoga cushion, and then you just lose it when you're with your family of origin, it is because, and you wonder why you get triggered by this again and again. There are patterns that are just so strong in dynamics. And it's not just you. You are one piece in an entire collective, in a melody, that has played again and again. And in that, everyone on some level knows their role within it, and it becomes really hard to change out of that role and do something differently. And so that's why you can leave for years and then come back, and all of a sudden, just like that, no matter how much self-work you've done, you might find yourself right back in the same spiral that comes dragging you down very, very quickly. And personality dynamics too. So again, the way that we are hardwired, we can just get stuck into doing things that work for us over time. But perhaps if we lean into them and depend on them too much, especially when we grow older, and we should now be, exploring other aspects of who we are and growing and evolving and individuating and self-actualizing more, if we haven't yet started to move into some of those growing edges of who we are, then our dominant modes of being can actually start to, work against us in that way. All of that can create negative situations, bad vibes, if you will, or situations that are uncomfortable. They don't flow well. They don't feel nice. They ruffle other people's feathers. Our feathers get ruffled, right? It just doesn't, it just is so, it's like, machinery that screeches. One of my pet hates is metal on metal. And it's just like, metal on metal. It grates and it grinds, and there's nothing pleasant about it. Yeah. And then this point about why it is so easy to get sucked into the negative vibe spirals. And this one is really, really important, especially for people who are in the spiritual community, who are awake, aware, walking a conscious path, and especially those who are awake, aware, conscious, and and open to, and eyes wide open to the fact that there are negative, dark forces in this world, right? The thing here is that the darkness is so seductive. The darkness is very seductive, yeah? And we in the modern world have actually lost ways to acknowledge that seductiveness and that drawing in the magnetism and the power of the darkness and a dark force. In many ancient cultures, in animistic cultures, those who have ritual and ceremony and festival embedded into their ways of being as they move through the seasons and they do their different festivities, you will often find, you see it in Africa, you see it in Asia, in a lot of these festivals, you will see like the monster, or you will see some kind of an entity, or maybe a series of entities that actually embodies really kind of awful horrific, scary attributes, right? Or some very dark things. There is a reason why these characters, why these archetypal characters have been represented and are put within those festivals. Those festivals are not all about love and light type of things. They're actually pretty confronting sometimes when you start to understand the symbolism and what is going on and the storytelling. And there is very good reasoning for that, because it is acknowledging that there are light forces, there are dark forces, there are parts of who we are and how we operate that need to be acknowledged, aside from those bits that we just like to look at and that make us feel good, right? So when our modern society doesn't actually acknowledge that, we haven't, we're not mature enough to find ways in our modern culture to deal with it. Now it starts to manifest in very immature ways. So we get all of these, all these manifestations of dark forces coming up within our personal lives, within our families, within our collective lives, in very dark, spiral, negative ways. So this can look like addictions, right? This can get into, negative conflict patterns, for example. This can get into the negative self-talk. This can get into, deep, dark holes that we feel we go down or we have to get pulled out of, right? Because we just have lost ways of understanding these, to work with other aspects of ourselves, right? Beyond what we can see, beyond what the light, beyond what our conscious self, the light, is able to shine its light upon. There is darkness. If you think of the campfire, right? Our consciousness shows us everything that is in the campfire. We're aware of it, but there's all of this blackness around that we are unaware of. We are unconscious too. And so if we don't honor those things, respect those things, and understand that it is present, then we can really wind ourselves into some trouble. So that is also why it can be so easy to get sucked into these negative spirals. So the difference now, what is the difference between avoidance, what is really having your eyes closed as you move through with bad vibes, to deal with bad vibes, and resilience, which is having your eyes wide open, your physical eyes, your spiritual eyes wide open? There is a remarkable difference between choosing a path of avoidance and choosing a path of resilience. So when we close our eyes to the bad vibes, we don't grow, right? If none of us want those things to be there, and yet there they are. And so if we close our eyes to them, they haven't gone anywhere, have they? They're still there, right? We just haven't dealt with them. But if we are eyes wide open to them on all levels, right? On the physical, on the spiritual, if we are eyes wide open to what is going on, as unpleasant as it is, as uncomfortable as it is, as yuck as those bad vibes are, we are now way more able to meet them, to navigate them, and to even shift them into something different. But we will never be able to engage that path if we choose to avoid the bad vibes. And finally, why your spiritual experiences are actually your superpower in order to maintain your good vibes. So when you've had these spiritual experiences, it's one thing to have the experiences. That's fantastic, right? So you've had these extraordinary experiences. But then what, right? If you are not able to take the essence of those experiences and then apply them in your human, imperfect, messy life, then the fruits of those experiences they won't rot. I mean, they're not fruits that rot, they're eternal, they're there, right? But they remain unpotentiated. Yeah, it is up to you, the agent of awesome. It is up to you, the individual, the person, to activate them, to become an agent of that which is awesome, of these, the force, right? The creator, the great creative power. So you are able then to use your experiences to make the most of the human experience, right? You're very lucky if you have had some spiritual experiences, because you have actually had direct knowing, direct experiencing of something extraordinary. Yeah, and that's fantastic. So use that knowledge, use that direct experience know that it is within your core, it is part of your wisdom, it is part of your superpower, it is part of your gift to be able to tap into that state, that those experiences revealed to you, that they connected you to. You've been there. You've done it before. It means you can do it again, and you can strengthen those spiritual muscles in your day-to-day life as you encounter these bad vibes and negative experiences. Let me know how this lands. Peace to you wherever you are in the world. May you shine, 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 shine.